Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Unfortunately, our normal chair, Dr. Dunstan, isn't available to join us today, so you're stuck with the backup quarterback. Sorry about that. But the first item of business is approval of minutes from the previous meeting. So I would entertain a motion, unless there are any corrections or other items we need to discuss about that.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Ben. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, the minutes are approved. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next item, which is access permits. So NDOT, do you have anything you'd like to share in particular about this?
Just a few updates from our last meeting. We've not received any new access permit applications from last month. Changes from last month, State Road 38 west of Creasy Lane, minor commercial driveway. We had requested some revisions from the applicant. Those revisions have been made. Plans have been revised. Those revisions are acceptable. We're just now waiting on a few additional documents from the applicant to move forward with that. US 52 and US 231 north of Cumberland Avenue, the Klondike Middle School. There was an inspection requested and completed. There were some issues that needed to be resolved. The applicant requested some additional information and clarification from us, which he has been provided. And lastly, State Road 38 east of Maple Point Drive. The permittee, as of last month, had applied for an addendum to rectify some issues, and our review is underway of that addendum to get those issues corrected. And that's all the updates that I have for this month.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Mike? Okay, so with that, I think we can move on to the next agenda item, which is a TIP amendment. So Doug, if you'd like to go ahead and present that for us.
Good afternoon. Before I get started, I'd like to say one thing real quick, is that if you have not followed Facebook and NDOT's West Central webpage, Mr. Eubank received, I think, an award from a commissioner, one of 3 NDOT employees. So I'd like to congratulate him, put him on the spot. So if you didn't know that, congratulations. Begin with the, we do have a request from the Indiana Department of Transportation. And we are going, or the request involves updating 8 projects that are actually currently shown in the TIP and then add 2 new ones. Basically, looking at the 8 projects, one's on State Road 25, one's on 38, 4 are on 52, 1 on 65, and 1 is at various locations. 2 involve changing construction years, 1 specifically from 24 to 26, and another one on 25 is going from a 2 construction year to 1. And the others all involve an increase in funding amounts. The 2 new projects are various routes within the district, and they involve raised pavement markers, and they are scheduled for construction of 25, and the second one is 26. APC staff is recommending approval of this amendment to the policy board. Are there any comments or questions regarding this?
Well, sounds like there aren't any, so I suppose then we would entertain a motion to approve this amendment for the policy board's consideration.
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, the motion carries.
Thank you.
So looks like we are having a little bit of trouble with our display cutting in and out. I'm not quite sure why that's happening. So I apologize for that, but we do have several items that Doug's going to go over next. So Doug, if you just want to go ahead and start going through those.
Sure. A couple weeks ago, I was reading a national story about air quality, specifically related to the fires that were experienced in Canada last year. And I thought, well, why not we do a little data diving and see exactly how this impacted Tippecanoe County. And the next report that I put together, Air Quality Index report, it does include air quality data for Tippecanoe County from 2010 to actually 2024, or at least the first part of it. And it was really interesting for 2023, of the 349 days that air quality was sampled, 293 of them had good air quality, 50 had moderate air quality, 4 had unhealthy for sensitive groups, and unfortunately there were 2 days that had unhealthy air quality. And it's kind of interesting that if you looked over the older data, we never had, since 2010, and I don't know before that, any days that had unhealthy air quality. There were some unhealthy for sensitive groups, 2 in 2010, 1 in 2011, 1 in 2012, and 1 in 2014. So last year, the air monitors did pick up the smoke air quality issues due to the Canadian fires. And in addition to that, I thought, okay, let's do a comparison to the other large metropolitan areas around the state. And that is kind of in the middle. And as you can see, this is just for Marion County. There were 197 days last year of moderate. There were 17 for unhealthy for sensitive groups and 3 for days of unhealthy. Likewise, for South Bend, there were 118 days of moderate, 10 for unhealthy for for sensitive groups, and then 3 for unhealthy. So we're not the worst. We were on the lower edge of it. So I think probably what we need to do is to keep an eye on this, at least us for internally. I would hate for this to actually end up kicking us over to put us in non-attainment status, which means a lot more work and a different regulations. But just wanted to start rolling out some of this air quality data because it's been quite a while since we actually have looked at it, since we are classified still attainment. So any questions or comments? Okay, going on to the next one. This is another fun and interesting report that we put together. So, leading up to the solar eclipse on April the 8th, we were told, oh, be careful, watch out, there's going to be a lot of traffic. Well, here we have some actual data, and this data came from NDOT. You can actually look at it on their website for traffic counts. And this just looks at the 2 locations on I-65, the one just north of us. And on April 8th, they recorded 59,343 vehicles that day. And then to the south, and this was just south of the State Road 260, south of State Road 267 or exit 133, 85,048 vehicles a day. So the graph below it kind of shows how that pans out with not only in 2024, but the past 2 years. The red dot actually shows the April 8th count. And the reason why I had to put a dot there is because the traffic counter did not take counts the day before and the day after. So it looked kind of funny in the graph, so that's why we put that dot there. If you look at other peak days, of course, Thanksgiving traffic is number 1. July 4th weekend, number 2, Memorial Day weekend, number 3, and this ranks right up there. Going on to the first graph, this is kind of interesting of how the traffic, the amount throughout the day. And as you can see, the two big dips right when the eclipse was occurring. And it's rather interesting that on the blue line, which is the 65 north of Lafayette count, that there was some spikes, but yet it wasn't bad. But to the south, look at that major spike. And then, of course, you saw additional spikes, but not as bad below that. So definitely traffic south of us was impacted on I-65. Delving more deeply into the counts by hour, you can see throughout the day that cars were pretty well flowing. When you got to the 1 to 3 p.m. time frame, you can see actually traffic was slowing down. These are by speed bends. The first one is vehicles traveling from 0 to 20 miles an hour. And then, of course, the hour, right after the eclipse, things were traveling fairly well. 4 to 5, things were slowing down. But then you start looking after that, and you can definitely tell vehicles were slowing down, especially from the 8 to 9 p.m. Over 1,000 vehicles were going between 0 and 20 miles an hour on 65. So that's the impact on the counts, or on that location north of us. And I also threw up here the hourly counts and speed for the one just south of us. And as you can see, likewise, between 4 and 8 p.m., traffic did slow down accordingly. So instead of just looking at tables, put that to graphs. So you can definitely see that red spike. This is where vehicles were traveling between 0, just basically stopped in 20 miles an hour. And you can see that big spike right there, where a lot of traffic was just barely crawling. And then the next one is to the south. The red spike, it's not as bad, but you can definitely tell that a lot of vehicles were traveling a lot slower than normally expected. The first speed bend, that first peak, 30 to 35. The next one was 20 to 25, and the following one was 25 to 30. So overall, those were only 2 counts we actually looked at. We didn't look at any of the other not I-65 counts, but, well, the I-65 count to the south or any of the interstate counts, but we thought we'd just, since we had good count data for these 2 locations, we thought we would share it with you. Any questions or comments? Okay, going on, give you an update on the U.S. Bike Route 37 status. Well, I have some good news and bad news. The NDOT commissioner did sign off and approve the application. That is the good news. The bad news is that the NDOT staff that was responsible for sending the application to AASHTO did not follow this year's instructions. They followed last year's instructions and sent it to the wrong address. So AASHTO did not review the application. So at this point, the Adventure Cycling Group has recommended that NDOT can submit it now and recommend that they do that. So the next opportunity for AASHTO review it is in October. So if they do submit it before the deadline, hopefully it's good to go. So unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer for this. So unfortunately, that's what happened. So sorry for the bad news. Going on to the monthly obligation report. This is, of course, what we produce here. If you look at the tables, of course, the top one shows the information that's submitted to us by NDOT, and the bottom one is the information that we track. You look at the grade cells, they are all 0, which indicates that we have obligated all of our original FY24 federal funds. So now we are working on obligating the additional federal funds that were received. Between the two amounts given to us, we have an additional $714,452. For the first part of it, the amounts we're waiting on NDOT and FHWA and FTA to approve those. NDOT on the highway side has been a lot better in pushing that information to Federal Highway. It's not been fully approved yet, but it's looking like that will occur a lot quicker than on the FTA side because unfortunately NDOT Transit Section is taking their time and actually asking for amendment to the State Transportation Improvement Program. So we're following that and we're watching that. So, and once those get approved, then we will go out and actually obligate those funds. Any comments or questions? Last thing I have is the 18-month letting list. I'll start with the bid letting results. Thank you for putting that up. There were 2 projects on the April 10th letting. One was on Special 52, and the other is a various location project. Both projects were awarded. The first one, small structure or superstructure repair and rehab, that was awarded to Reith Riley, and the estimated completion date is November 1st this year. There were 3 bids submitted. And the second one, repair or replace lighting, this is throughout the Crawfordsville District. It was awarded to Midwestern Electric, and there were 2 bids, and the estimated completion is also at the end of November 2024. Looking at going back to the first page, look at between project number 2 and number 3. Of course, the 2 April projects were awarded, but then the next bid letting we have coming up is later this year in October. So it's going to be very thin this summer. We'll have no projects on NDOT's bid letting at this time. November is a busy month. We have a couple of projects that I want to point out. Again, the State Road 225 project, keep our fingers crossed on that one. And then the county has the 527 bridge and then the next phase of Morehouse Road. We do have a new project listed, and that's on a January 2025 bid letting. Traffic signal visibility improvements at various intersections here in Tippecanoe County. So are there any comments or questions regarding that? Okay. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Doug. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, which is the quarterly project reports. So first up, we have Tippecanoe County. So the first project is the North 9th Street Road Bridge. And on this, the environmental date was updated to reflect additional time to complete the preliminary design. However, this does not ultimately affect the letting date, which is good news. Stu, do you have anything else you wanted to share about this project?
No, I don't.
Then the next project is River Road at 500 North. So the final construction record is 85% complete. So they were anticipating submission at the end of the month. That was the previous month. So we think this should probably be the last quarterly report. This one's kind of just been hanging on for a while.
Fingers crossed,
So,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, we lost site manager connection and yeah.
So we're just one step from the finish line. Hopefully we'll take that step and I won't have to keep bothering Stu about this one.
Or close that one out.
Okay. So then our next one is Morehouse Road. So first with Phase 1. So we did, of course, note some changes in construction costs for both Phase 1 and Phase 2. Because this project was split, we've kind of been seeing these costs fluctuate a little bit from quarter to quarter as things continue to get sorted out with that phasing split. Did you have anything to say about either of these phases in particular, Stu, that you didn't already note?
No, I think, hopefully we've had obviously anybody's noticed, Morehouse has not yet closed because the utilities only had a year to move, But we've had a few conflicts, but it should be closed up and real construction should be able to start by the end of the month. And phase 2 is on track and hopefully under budget, and that will help finance the Bridge 527.
Okay, great. Thank you for those updates. So moving on to Jaeger Road. So this one, again, we're kind of very close to the finish line. So do you have a time estimate of when POs are anticipated to close for this project?
Yeah, we've had the pre-final, they've done everything. The only thing that's left, well, there's two things, I guess, that are left, and they're Ben's fault. There's a bad joint at the connection to the city, and so they still have to mill and relay that. And then there's something I think you did some videos, some storm pipes. So worst case, shouldn't take more than another month to finish the punch list. So unless Ben makes us dig up the whole street, I don't know.
Okay, so then the next project is the McCutcheon Pedestrian Safety Project. So on-site work was scheduled to be completed. However, the change order for that time extension requires a lot of NDOT approval. So that's kind of holding up the closing out this project. Do you have any updates on this one, Stu?
No, I think we're functional. It's just a matter of paperwork now. Right?
All right, moving on to some of the bridge projects. So Bridge 64. So there was a small change in costs. The environmental report was listed as 95% complete. Do we have any kind of timeline for when that will be fully complete?
That's the one thing they're actively working on. So I think we're getting close. Those were moved out so far that there's no point in moving ahead right now on any of the designs. That's why it's flat.
Right, okay. So probably that's the same comment for Bridge 65 since they're bundled together.
Right.
Okay.
Part of the thing on the environmental, I think they're dragging a little bit, is because they don't want it to expire.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so then moving on to the next bridge project, Bridge 527. So we did note an increase in costs. Looks like this project's been hitting its milestone. As Doug mentioned earlier, it is on the 18-month letting list, which is good. So you have any additional comments on this one, Stu?
That one's just money, and Doug's working on it.
Right. Okay. So moving on to our next project, bridge number 80. Again, there was an increase in cost on this one. We are getting somewhat close to the stage 2 design milestone and environmental report complete. Do you have any updates on either of those milestones? The percentages that were shown are a little low for how close those deadlines are.
The last I did get just a regular monthly update after the quarterly went in. It showed a little more progress and everything. They're still indicating on track for letting. And I did question the construction cost jumps. I haven't gotten a response on that yet.
Okay, so then I assume basically the same for Bridge 83 since that's the companion. Yep.
Paired.
Okay. Same deal for that one. All right, got it. So then the next one is the bridge inspections. We didn't have any comments on this. There was some paperwork that we got signed for this just this week. So as far as we know, I think that should be good to go. I think that's right, Doug. Yeah, he's nodding. Okay. Yeah. So any comments on this, Stu?
Nope, just entering the next phase. September's our compliance month, September, October, and this is the 2-year cycle, so this is a full inspection.
Okay. Thank you for that update. We will go ahead and move on to Lafayette's projects. So the first project is the South 9th Street project. I did note that in the quarterly report that the right-of-way schedule info wasn't listed. It had dropped off for some reason.
Yeah, that's probably just my mistake in filling them out through the NDOT system for the first time. We did just get FEMA's approval for right-of-way and notice to proceed for right-of-way, so we're anticipating about a year on right-of-way acquisition.
All right, we'll go ahead and just continue to monitor that for future reports then, no problem. Okay, so then the next project, so this was a new report that was filed for the first time for South 9th Street in Kossuth. Do you have anything you wanted to bring up about this project specifically, Jeremy?
Well, this is the one that was originally going to be a Big Four trail portion, but we're going to take those funds and most likely morph this into Phase 2 of South 9th Street.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. We'll keep a lookout on that too. And then the next thing was the signalized intersection. And so this is several locations in both Lafayette and West Lafayette. So again, this is also a pretty new report. Do you have any comments about this one, Jeremy?
Yeah, this is the emergency vehicle preemption, and it was the first time that I filed a report for it. So there's probably still a lot that needs filled out here. We've got to get an RFP out for consultant and get somebody hired, get going on that project.
Yep. We'll continue to keep an eye on that one too. All right. So moving on to West Lafayette. So there were several comments about the scheduled changes. So the dates were moved around to accommodate a new project timeline and splitting the environmental process into 2 phases. And the next quarterly report is going to have some updates about some fund shifts. And West Lafayette is working on a supplement with design consultants. So other than all that, did you have anything else you wanted to add on this, Ben?
No. Not at this, I mean, we got some, apparently the post-World War II historic neighborhoods are something that I guess we need to start paying more attention to. So they've come back and said that the neighborhood in the county, Prophet Drive, Tamiami, Indian Trail, is a post-World War II, or not World War, post-war, not specific war, could be Desert Storm, I guess. But that it's custom homes in there, so they've filled out and it's in review. The recommendation is that we're going to impact that, and then there's one house in the county that has some potential architectural features that could be potentially historic. So more to come on that. We'll need to have some conversations.
Okay, so then the next part is related to that, specifically the ramp intersection. So again, we have the historic register issue that you brought up. So anything else to add on this one?
No. I mean, we just need to have some conversations amongst some people and figure out some game plans while we sit and wait months to find out what the answer is going to be.
Right. So then our next project is Soldiers Home Road from Hamilton to Calbear. So this was the first report we received for this portion of the project. So no schedule details were included. I'm assuming that's because they aren't finalized yet, and that's still kind of a work in progress, which often happens the first time we get a quarterly report. Not everything is nailed down yet, so maybe that's more of something just to keep an eye on going forward.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that's it's just the splitting of the phase 1, phase 2.
Okay, and then your last project, the Sagamore Parkway Trail project, this one is kind of stalled because it's been in the liquidated damages thing. Last, we had heard that the updated numbers still hadn't been provided by the construction inspection company. I know that's been kind of a long process for you guys. So anything you want to add on this one, Ben?
No, but I would hope here relatively short. I think we've gotten most of the punch list items completed, and we got just a few more little erosion control issues that need to be addressed, but we're pretty close to hopefully getting to the end zone on this one.
All right, well, thank you very much. That concludes this item. So then we'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is other business. And we have something that doesn't happen very frequently, but we do have a scheduling conflict for our typical meeting time next month. So the third Wednesday of the month falls on Juneteenth, which of course is a federal holiday. So none of us will be here. So we'd like to reschedule that meeting. Typically what we've done in the past when we have had the rare scheduling conflict with this meeting is that we'll just move it back a week. So that'll put it on the fourth Wednesday of the month, the 26th. Does that sound like that would generally work for people's schedules? We'll try to send out an email and such to remind you that it's changing. All right, I'm seeing some nods that it works. That's good. Okay. So hopefully then we'll be able to get a quorum next month. And with that, unless there's any further discussion, we'll go ahead and move on to citizen comments, which is our last agenda item. So the floor is open for any citizens in the audience who would like to comment about anything. All right. Seeing no comments, we will move on to the next item, which is that we will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'd like to say something real quick.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
So this is my last TIP meeting, or Tech Highway meeting, I should say. So I appreciate everyone on this board's friendship and partnership as we go through. And so Natalia will be sitting up here next month on the 26th of June. And so, but hope you'll extend to her the grace that you guys have extended to me. She won't need as much as I've needed. So, but anyway, I do very much appreciate the opportunity to serve with all of you and value all the great work that you guys continue to do. So thank you. And I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, we have a heartfelt adjournment from Ben. We get a heartfelt second.
Second.
All right, thank you. So all those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming.